Welcome to the studio. You're listening to Willow Waves, a student-produced podcast where kindergartners to sixth graders explore interests, promote solutions to global concerns, and communicate about everything related to our social and emotional learning. We aim to amplify voices, share knowledge, and encourage conversations. Visit us at willowsprings.es.fcps.edu to learn more and subscribe. Join us as we explore our diverse and dynamic world of elementary education. Welcome to another episode of The Big Splash with Nivi. Today I'm so excited to interview Torri Huske, an American swimmer who is a current world champion in the 100-meter butterfly. She also currently holds the American record for the both 100 and 50-meter butterfly. At 18, she won a silver medal at the 4x100-meter medley relay in the 2020 Summer Olympics. She became one of 4 American women in history to win 6 medals at the 2022 World Championships. Now let's dive into this podcast. Hi Torri, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you so much for making time for us to talk, and I'm so excited for you to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so when did you start competitive swimming, and which teams did you swim for when you were younger?
Okay, so I started competitive swimming around ages 5 or 6, I think. And I've been on AAC my whole life from ages like 5 to 18. So that stands for like Arlington Aquatic Club. And even though I was on the same team, I was in different groups. And like as you get older, you move up to different groups. So I started as a mini gator where you swim 1 day a week. And then eventually I swim with Evan Stiles for I think 4 years, maybe 5 years. And he was my most recent coach on AAC. And I always, whenever I visit town, I always go back and I see him and I practice with him. So I've been on AAC pretty much my whole life. So that is like a big part of who I am.
Nice. At what age did you become really passionate about swimming and progress to state and national levels?
Yeah, so I think that originally I hated swimming, but my parents didn't really know that. And I think it was kind of just like a little bit of a miscommunication. I didn't really like it because I was always super cold and I would actually wear a wetsuit to practice every single day. I eventually did outgrow the wetsuit and I started wearing like a normal bathing suit, but I don't really know. There wasn't like a definitive moment when I started liking swimming. It just kind of happened gradually. And I think by like second grade, I know that I really liked swimming, but I can't really like say a definitive moment in time where I was like, oh, this is what I want to do, or this is what I really like to do. But yeah, and then I think that I started to realize that I might be like really good at swimming when I first made the final at Winter Nationals. And I think I was either like 14 or 15 at the time. And this was like a really big deal for me because this was my first ever national meet. And I was like seeing all these like super big famous swimmers for the first time. And I wasn't racing in the same heat as them, but I was like there at the same meet with them. So I remember being kind of like awestruck by that.
Yeah. What were your favorite strokes when you were younger?
When I was younger, I was actually a breaststroker and a flyer. Just kind of funny because now breaststroke is like my worst stroke. But right now, I would say my favorites are now like fly and free and IM.
Did you do any other sports besides swimming when you were younger?
I did a lot of different sports when I was younger. My parents tried to sign me up for all of these different sports just because they wanted to expose me to everything so that I could find what I loved.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran a little bit like with like Girls on the Run. I played soccer. I'm like blanking as to like a lot of the things I did, but I did a lot. I like used to ice skate. I also like as far as like non-athletic things, I like my parents put me in a lot of art classes and I remember being in like ceramics, which I really loved. And like I also played viola when I was younger. So I kind of did a little bit of everything, I would say, and swimming just happened to stick.
Do you enjoy other sports like right now to this day besides swimming?
Yeah, I don't really have time and most of the time like I'm too tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really like hiking and like I think like camping is super fun, but even though I haven't gone in like a super long time. But I really like those things. I went surfing for the first time ever in Hawaii in this past like fall. And that was super fun, even though I wasn't very good at it because it was my first time. But I would definitely like to do stuff like that more in the future. But for the most part, I just don't really have time to do other sports.
Yeah, I could understand because you went to the Olympics and then you train for a lot every day and you do school too. So yeah, it's kind of connecting
Yeah.
to my next question. How did you balance schoolwork with swimming and traveling?
In high school or now?
Let's do both.
Okay. High school, I mean, I feel like it's not as hard to balance as you would think just because it's all I've been doing like my whole life. Like I already was prepped for it in high school. And so in high school, it was like all I knew. I didn't really have another alternative. I feel like you just have to stay really on top of things and like manage your time really wisely. This means like in like Patriot period, which is like our free period at school, like I just had to do like homework and like same with like when I got home after practice, I would just do homework for like an hour or two whenever I like however long it took. But I don't really know. It's just like having good time management, like keeping an agenda and so that you like stay on top of things. And then the same goes for college. I mean, like I feel like if you instill these good habits when you're younger, it becomes a lot easier to keep up with.
Did you set goals for training like at all?
Yeah, I always set goals. I feel like that's what kind of is helpful in my swimming is like goal setting. And I'm not just talking about like big goals like, oh, making the Olympics, because that was honestly not really a goal for me. It wasn't really on my radar at all until like 2019. I was like, oh, maybe I would have a chance at like making the Olympics. And that's only like the year before the Olympics. So I feel like that's kind of late to like it wasn't even a goal at the time. It was like the first time it was like I even thought it was like a possibility. So I feel like that was kind of late for that. But I feel like if you set everyday goals and just like maybe like monthly goals and just like short term goals, it really helps you because you can kind of use that as like a stepping ladder to propel you to like your bigger goal. Or like, I don't know. I feel like it can be kind of discouraging sometimes if you have this really big goal, like making the Olympics, and it can seem kind of like unobtainable in the moment. So I feel like if you set really small goals on the way there, it will seem less scary and you'll get farther than you realized.
Did you ever struggle with training on a daily basis? Because I know one of your strongest strokes is butterfly, and when I swim butterfly, I get tired sometimes. So, how did you ever struggle, and how did you push through it when you were tired?
Yeah, I feel like everyone struggles with fly, especially like when they're younger. I feel like that one's a real power stroke. So it definitely gets easier as you get older. My biggest advice for like fly and training is just to work on your technique when you're younger. I feel like that's especially important when you don't have like the same build as like a 20-year-old. So if you work on your technique now, I mean, it'll definitely help you in the future. Yeah, I mean, everyone struggles.
That's
It's
true.
just like about how you push through it. I don't really know how to like what to tell you to like think when you're like going through a hard time, but like I think that's something that everyone has to like figure out on their own and figure out like what works for them because what works for one person probably won't work for the next person.
Yeah. Did your
Yeah.
coach prepare or you prepare a diet or nutrition plan?
When I was in high school, my dad was kind of like my nutritionist. He's a really good cook, and he would just make all these like good meals for me just to make sure that I like ate enough because I was like a smaller child and I was like burning all these calories in the pool, obviously. But I feel like as long as you're like taking in enough calories, you should be fine. But I was really fortunate that my dad was so like on top of my nutrition.
Were you a picky eater when you were younger? Because some foods probably won't taste the best even though when they're healthy.
Actually, I'm not really that picky of an eater. I feel like I'll try anything, not only like once, but like a couple times before I like figure out or like I finally decide that I don't like it. So I'm really not that picky, but there are definitely some foods that I prefer over others.
That's a good benefit for swimming because you would eat like anything that would be healthy and it would be good for you in the water.
Yeah.
What do you think sets successful swimmers apart from those who don't make it at the highest level?
Um, I feel like at like these like high levels, it's like the drive and like how hard people work. Like even at like Stanford, like all of my teammates, they like work so hard every single day. And I feel like when you're around all these other really hardworking people, you also work harder, obviously, because they push you more. So I feel like it's just like most of these people who are really good, they come from like a culture of fast swimming. Like I wouldn't be able to be where I am today without my team and like my coaches because they pushed me so much and like they make me better. So I feel like it's like surrounding yourself but with people who are also really hardworking, and then also you have to have the mindset yourself.
How did you deal with nerves and pressure before big races and competitions?
I feel like my dad taught me from a really early age that nerves can actually be really helpful, and you can actually use your nerves to like spike your adrenaline right before your race, and then you can like swim faster because you don't really like feel like the first 50 or whatever. But I feel like learning how to like manage your excitement is really important. And I actually got to a point in my swimming where I felt like if I wasn't nervous at all before my race, I wouldn't swim fast. And that's why at these like lower level meets, I would like be gaining so much time. And also would be because it was like in season a lot of the time. But I think that a lot of like a big part of it is like your mentality. I am now able to like I think that is also why I'm more of like a final swimmer though, and why I like get up for it more mentally at night because there's like more at stake. So I think it's just all in like your outlook. Because if you get like scared and you let that affect you negatively, then you're gonna swim slower. But if you like look at your nerves as like a positive thing that you can like use and like control to make you swim faster, then you're gonna do better. It's all in like your mindset.
Do you like the audience cheering for you, or would you prefer it to like have music?
Yeah, I think the audience plays into the nerves a little bit just because at least when I hear like a large crowd, I get super nervous and also excited. So I feel like when there's a louder audience or a louder crowd, I definitely swim better just because I get like more excited and it feels like there's like more at stake, and there's also just like more energy in the air, which I feel like you can kind of pull from.
What do you think when you were swimming in like Olympic pools or just any like really big competition, when you're diving in and swimming, what do you think about usually? Like what do you really think about?
Yeah, usually I feel like races are the time when you don't think. Practice is for thinking. When you race, it's kind of just when you let your brain go on autopilot. Like you've put in the work already. You don't really need to think that much during your race. I feel like if you can minimize your thinking, it's honestly for the best.
Did the pandemic ever affect your training?
Yeah, I think the pandemic definitely affected everyone's training. But I definitely used it to my advantage. The pool shut down and we found out that the trials were going to be postponed. I was kind of like, obviously with everyone else, I was like, this is a huge bummer. I really like, I really wanted the chance to like compete and to race. But then I was like, if anything, this will help me because I have a whole nother year to like get stronger. So I just lifted a lot more, and I was doing like an hour and a half, like 45 minutes on the rower, 45 minutes on the bike twice a day. I was also like doing hills and like doing other like dry land things like jumping rope. So I was doing like more than I ever had at that point, and I was like in the best shape of my life. So then when the pools finally opened up, the transition wasn't as difficult as I had thought it would have been because I was already in such good shape. Also, I was swimming in like people's backyard pools before the other pools were open. So a lot of my life during like COVID was just dedicated to like training. So it definitely changed my schedule, but I don't think it changed it necessarily in a negative way.
So it seems like the pandemic affected you in a good way because you had like another like year or so to practice like dry land and like a little bit of swim at least to get in shape.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped me, honestly.
Can you share any funny or interesting story from your experience in the Olympics?
Oh gosh. I can't really think of a funny story off the top of my head, but in general, I guess like first impressions of like the village, I remember being like really overwhelmed at first and it seemed super huge, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna navigate this on my own. It was kind of funny, I guess, watching like going around the village and then seeing like the speed walkers walk past really fast. I don't really know off the top of my head, but the village when I first got there, it seems like really like grand, and like there were like there was like this one lane with like flags from all these different countries, and I remember being like it felt very like surreal. Like I didn't really know how to process it because like your whole life you're kind of like like there's like so much talk about like the Olympics, and then like to finally be there, it almost didn't feel real. Like I didn't know how to like process it, because you make the Olympics out to be something larger than life, and then to actually be there in this seemingly inobtainable like thing. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just very weird at first.
When you watched the Olympics, when like before you made it to the Olympics, did you think when you were like at the village and in the Olympics, was it like did you expect how it would look on TV in real life?
Um, I didn't really remember how it looked on TV, at least in past Olympics. I feel like I remember like the venues of like the pools and stuff like that. And the pool is about like what I expected. I had competed at other large events before, like trials and like in like Budapest and other things like that. So I the pool wasn't as scary as I thought it would be, but I don't really remember seeing the village on TV as much. Maybe that's why it also seemed like such a shock when I was like there.
What do you enjoy doing outside of swimming?
Outside of swimming, I really like doing art, and I really like reading. Right now, I'm actually in a painting class at Stanford, so that's super fun. But I honestly don't have as much free time as I would like. But next year, since I'm going to be taking like a leave of absence my winter and like spring quarter so that I can train, I'm probably going to have a lot more time to do those things.
And the final question, how does your Olympic experience help you today?
Yeah, I feel like it definitely helps me with like perspective and just kind of like knowing what I'm working towards, and just my experience at the Olympics like definitely kind of changed my mindset a little bit. It definitely made me more grateful too for the people around me and like the people who helped me get to that point, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So I feel like that's kind of it's like taught me a lot of like gratitude towards the people around me.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you so much, Tori, for making time for us to talk, and I really enjoyed the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was my conversation with Torri Huske, an Olympic and world champion swimmer. Despite the pandemic, she trained on a regular basis and made best use of limited opportunities to practice, which teaches us to be ready when the opportunity comes. Hope you all enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Thanks, and until the next time, bye!